So let me just ask you something. Would you play in a championship final with a broken neck? It sounds completely insane, right? Well, for one guy, it wasn't just some crazy hypothetical. It actually happened. And that brings us to the incredible story of a man named Bernhard, or as everyone knew him, Bert Trautmann. Seriously, his journey from a literal battlefield to a legendary football pitch is one of the most remarkable stories of personal triumph you are ever going to hear. Now, to really get this, we've got to start right at the most dramatic moment, the absolute climax of his career, a moment that almost, and I mean almost, became the end of his life. So picture this. It's May 5th, 1956. You're at the legendary Wembley Stadium. There are 100,000 screaming fans packed into the stands. It's Manchester City versus Birmingham City for the biggest prize in English football, the FA Cup final. The clock is ticking down. There are only 17 minutes left to play. Manchester City's goalie, our guy Bert Trautmann, does what keepers do. He dives bravely, headfirst into the action, right at the feet of an opponent. And bam! A brutal, violent collision. Trautmann is knocked out cold. And that one moment, well, that's what would make him a legend. So you've got to be wondering, who is this guy? Who would be willing to put their body on the line like that? To answer that, we have to hit rewind, because his journey to that famous pitch was, and I'm not exaggerating, nothing short of impossible. You see, Bert Trautmann wasn't English at all. He was German, a paratrooper who served in World War II. He fought on the Eastern Front, one of the most brutal theaters of the war, and was even awarded the Iron Cross for bravery. But as the war was ending, he was captured and brought to England as a prisoner of war. And get this, the moment he was captured is a story in itself. After escaping the Russians and the French, he was on the run from American soldiers, only to basically jump over a hedge and land right at the feet of a British soldier. And instead of a threat, he was greeted with a simple, calm question, "Hello, Fritz. Fancy a cup of tea?" That was the very first small step on this unbelievable road to reconciliation. So when the war ended, Trautmann chose to stay in England. Turns out, he was a phenomenal goalkeeper. So good, in fact, that in 1949, Manchester City signed him. And the reaction was absolute fury. We're talking 20,000 people protesting outside the stadium, chanting Nazi, absolutely livid that a former enemy soldier would now wear their club's colors. The turning point came from the most unlikely source you could ever imagine. Dr. Alexander Altman, a local rabbi who had fled the Nazis himself and whose parents were murdered in the Holocaust, wrote an open letter to the city. He argued that you can't punish one man for the sins of an entire nation. This powerful, incredible plea for forgiveness started to change minds. It calmed the protests and, really, it gave Trautmann a chance. Okay, so let's jump back to that 1956 final. Now that you know all that, just try to imagine the pressure, the weight on Trautmann's shoulders as he walked out onto that Wembley pitch. This wasn't just a game for him. This was the culmination of his entire journey, from enemy soldier to maybe, just maybe, an accepted hero. And Manchester City, they were playing a great game. They're up 3-1. Victory's right there. You can almost taste it. But as we all know, those last few minutes, they can be the most challenging of all. And here we are again, 17 minutes to go. Birmingham's Peter Murphy is racing toward the goal. Trautmann dives, and Murphy's knee connects with his neck with just tremendous force. He just lies there on the pitch, completely motionless. Now you have to remember, back in the 1950s, there were no substitutes. That's it. If a player goes off, your team has to play a man down. So even though Trautmann is dazed, in agony, and can barely stand, he absolutely insists on continuing. He just would not surrender. And he didn't just stay on the field, he played on. In what must have been excruciating pain, he made 2 more game-winning saves, diving into crowds of players, throwing his body on the line to preserve the lead and secure that FA Cup victory. Finally, the whistle blows. Manchester City are champions. The crowd is going wild. But for Trautmann, the ordeal was far from over. The true, terrifying extent of his bravery was about to be revealed. As he's collecting his winner's medal from the Duke of Edinburgh, his neck is visibly twisted. Prince Philip himself actually noticed it and asked him about it. And Trautmann, he just shrugged it off, saying it was just a stiff neck from the collision. He even attended the post-match banquet, even though he literally couldn't move his head. But the pain wasn't going away. In fact, it took a full 3 days for doctors to finally discover what was really wrong. An X-ray revealed the shocking, terrifying truth. He had dislocated 5 vertebrae in his neck. One of those vertebrae was cracked completely in half. The doctor told him he could have died right there on the pitch. Let that sink in. He played the final 17 minutes of the biggest game of his life with a broken neck. But you know, Trautmann's story isn't just about a single act of impossible courage. His entire life became this powerful symbol of how sport can heal even the deepest, most painful wounds. This contrast just perfectly captures his journey. Think about this. To this day, Bert Trautmann is the only person in history to have been awarded both Germany's Iron Cross for military valor and an FA Cup winner's medal. That marks a complete transformation from soldier to celebrated sportsman. The former prisoner of war who was met with protests and hatred, well, he fell in love with the country that had held him captive. He became such a beloved figure that he was even awarded an OBE by the Queen for his work in improving Anglo-German relations. He truly became one of their own. So this leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? What truly defines a hero? Is it a single moment of incredible bravery, or is it a lifetime of overcoming hatred, of building bridges and earning redemption? In Bert Trautmann's case, it was clearly both. His story is a powerful, powerful testament to resilience and the amazing ability of sport to heal.